I've always dreamed of having a Victorian dress. No particular period. Frankly, I would love to have any of them. Or all of them. So I've been in love with historical fashion for about as long as I can remember. I think it probably started when I was a child and I first watched the movie Anne of Green Gables, and she told Marilla how much she wanted this one to be made with puff sleeves.
I'd be even more grateful if you'd make this one with puff sleeves.
Just the idea of puffed sleeves. Oh, I can still picture Anne twirling in Marilla's kitchen in that dress, wishing it was me. From the day I watched that movie for the first time, I think in my heart I knew that someday I needed to make my own dress with puff sleeves. Or really, any Victorian dress. The more I studied historical fashion, the more I looked into books and pictures, the more I fell in love. A corset terrifies me. I've never attempted anything like it. I don't do tailored or fitted garments. I don't even know where to begin. I'm one of those crazy sewers who never even makes a mock-up. And I'm going to make a corset? And so I gave up. I found one excuse after another. They all were perfectly reasonable. I didn't have the time. I didn't have the money. I couldn't find the right materials where I lived. All perfectly reasonable. But the truth was, I was scared. I didn't know how to do it. I felt overwhelmed at even the idea of starting. And so I gave up on the dream. I gave up on the idea of having Victorian clothes, even though I wanted them so desperately. I knew that if you didn't have the right underpinnings, it wouldn't work. You needed those undergarments to make the silhouette work, to make the dress hang properly. I knew that. Well, that all changed. This year, the crazy year that is 2020, like so many of us, I fell down the rabbit hole that is YouTube costume. And a funny thing happened. I realized that these people who made amazing dresses weren't perfect. They made mistakes. And I also devoured every video I could find on the subject of corset making. And suddenly it wasn't so scary. I was able to find resources online for where I could find the supplies I needed that I couldn't buy locally. And all of a sudden it felt attainable, like something I could do. It wasn't going to be easy. In fact, it was going to be really hard, but I could do it. And so I have. I have ordered a pattern from Truly Victorian for one of their corsets, and now I just have to wait for it to arrive. Part of me is terrified. I have no idea how this will turn out. If it turns out well, then you're watching this video. If it was a disaster, then you're not. So hopefully you find this entertaining to watch my journey into first-time corset making, and we'll see what happens along the way. Okay, confession time. I'm really bad at waiting. So it turns out that the pattern that I've ordered is now on back order, which means I have no idea when I'm finally gonna get it. I thought about waiting until it came before I bought any other supplies, but yeah, I'm impatient. So instead, I went on a Facebook group and I asked if anyone there happened to have the same pattern, and if they did, if they could share with me the materials needed list, so I knew what I needed to buy. And as luck would have it, somebody did. And thank you, thank you, thank you. I now had the list, so I started buying my supplies. First thing I did, of course, was to place the orders online for the items I knew I wasn't going to find locally. So ordering a busk and ordering boning. So those I have ordered through Farthingale here in Canada, and hopefully I will be getting them in about a week's time, but we'll see. The rest of the materials were things I figured I could find locally. So yesterday I took my list and I went to Fabricland, which is our local fabric store, and did a bit of a shop. And when I say a bit of a shop, I mean 2 rather large bags. So I figured you might enjoy seeing what I got, so here's a bit of a haul video for you. So here is my full haul of everything I bought. Some of this is for the corset and some of this is just because. So here are the 2 fabrics that I picked up. On the right is a cotton twill. So I've picked up 5 meters of the cotton twill, which hopefully will be enough to do all of my mock-ups as well as my actual corset, but we'll see. And then on the left is a lighter cotton. I believe this was being sold for bed sheets, but I figured I can use this for the lining layer, which is, I believe they recommended broadcloth in the pattern. So these are the 2 fabrics that I chose. So I picked up this twill tape. It's a 1-inch twill tape. I'm going to use that for my boning channels, or at least that's the plan. I also picked up the cotton cording to do the lacing with. And then this is sort of related to making the corset, kind of not, but I picked up a tailor's ham. Surprisingly enough, I didn't actually already own one of these. I own a tailor's point, but I've never apparently gone around to buying a tailor's ham. And knowing that I'm going to be ironing a lot of seams that are on curves, I figured now is the time to definitely invest in a tailor's ham. So in a way it is related to the corset. And then over to here I bought some threads, white thread just because, you know, you always need white thread. And then the bluey purple thread is actually a silk thread, which I'm hoping to use for doing the flossing, the finishing detail. And then I also picked up some more marking tools, a pen, as well as some tailor's chalk, and a tracing wheel. I also picked up some lace. I couldn't really make up my mind which lace I wanted. They had a lot of very pretty laces. So these are sort of the 2 contenders. I picked up the purpley blue ribbon to replace the white ribbon already in the lace on the left there, and the other option is the more crocheted looking lace. I figure I'll wait until I'm actually finished the corset and then just decide which one I prefer the look of. And then I also bought this tiny remnant of lace just because it was too pretty. It's actually less than half a meter of there, so not enough to use on the corset, but I figured I'd find some sort of project for it, and it was just too pretty not to pick it up. And then these 2 items are actually due to watching Morgan Donner's video where she was making corset mock-ups, and she suggested using heavy-duty zip ties as a substitute for your boning while you're doing your mock-ups, as well as getting a twill tape that came with grommets already in it to use for the back closure on your mock-up corsets, just to save you having to do that step. Quick and easy just to stitch it on. You can rip it off when you need to make your next mock-up. I thought those were both brilliant ideas, so I went ahead and picked those up. And then just because I have 0 willpower, I also picked up a few patterns. So it's finally here. My pattern is finally here. Let's go get it. So here it is, my corset pattern. It's actually a Laughing Moon pattern, but I did buy it through the Truly Victorian website. So in addition to the 2 versions of corset, this one actually does come with chemise as well as a drawers pattern. So I've got lots of pattern pieces to go through and figure out what is what, and yeah, I guess I have no excuse now. I'll need to actually get started on this project. Okay, first things first, let's try to make the corset.